and namaste. This is Preeti Adhikari, the founder of the Great Nepali Diaspora. This is where we showcase global Nepali professionals from all different domains and showcase their stories of success, perseverance, and struggle. And today we have a very, very, very special guest, Kirtana Banskota, who is the CEO, founder of Banskota Productions, and co-founder and producer of South Asian House. Kirtana, welcome. I've wanted you on our podcast for so long, and I'm so glad it's happening now.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And the minute I met you, I wanted to get to know you, get to be your friend. So I think this admiration goes a long way. It's not just from this conversation.
Likewise. There was the Women's Leadership Summit in Dallas, right? And I've said this to you, again and again, and I've, talked to so many people about you. When I heard you talk, it's your spirit animal, dosta, right? It was like insane. For me, I'm so all about women empowerment, and especially new Nepali women. It was almost like you embodied all the qualities I wish for Nepali women, and to see that on stage was incredible.
I echo the same way, because when you started speaking, since you were the keynote speaker, I just sat there in awe, literally sitting there just watching you and running around on stage with your sari and just smiling away and talking to everyone. And my husband goes, "You have a crush, don't you?" And I was like, "Oh God, yes, I have a major crush on this woman. I want to be her best friend." So I think that event changed my life in many ways, for sure.
Perfect. No, perfect. And we'll talk so much about this in terms of, how do we take this forward, right? This mutual connection we have, and really to showcase, कसरी एकअर्कालाई amplify गर्ने and so on. And that's what we'll discuss today. To get started, Kirtana, usually the creatives, they move to Hollywood, they move to New York, and you're in Austin, right? Tell us why you moved there.
So I used to live in New York, and it was in 2009, 2008, I visited Austin for South by Southwest, but I came in to party. And Austin had this very indie, very musical, very Tamil vibe, in lack of better terms. And it felt very strangely home. And then in 2011, after graduating, working in New York for a bit, I was like, you know what? It's time for change. The rent was going higher in New York too. I used to live in Park Slope, so it's not fun too when you're this young little graduate. So I started mapping out spaces as to where do I want to go. New York and LA seemed very similar. And something I was brought up knowing as a kid was always be the big fish in the small pond than small fish in a big pond. And Austin seemed reasonable, though it's Texas. I flew my dog, packed my bags, drove down. And 12 years later, Austin is thriving, it's growing. We have an incredible incentive that just got passed for creatives. Studios are moving in here. So it's no longer Tamil, since there's also a lot of tech involved, but it feels very Austin's home. It's hot right now, but it's still home. So hot.
It is hot, but I love that Austin is growing in so many different domains, right? Like you said, tech, for creatives, and there's so much happening. For you, from, going to party at Austin, hosting the first South Asian house. Tell us about that journey.
It's a full circle, because so I'm here in 2008, I'm not really worried about the Nepali in me or the South Asian in me or being an ambassador, when young girls and boys and, children nowadays that are particularly being ambassadors of their culture, it's really aspiring, because I was not that kid. And I'm here and, I'm looking around, and then every year I've been to South by. So after 2008, I think 9, I skipped, but then 10, 11, every year. And South by is a little different of a beast compared to any other festivals. There's houses. So houses are pop-up events that showcase a country's culture or a community's culture or and a new tech. And it's this incredible, space to just interact. And there are these pop-up events that happen throughout. But in 36 years of South by Southwest history, there was never a South Asian house. So I started questioning. And every year, so this question started coming in around 2017 as to why isn't there one? So I approached a couple of people, didn't work out. They're like, why don't you start one? It'll happen, we'll follow. And then in 2019, South by, I met with a bunch of folks who were traveling. They're producers, they're together and they're from different parts of the world. And I was like, I don't understand why there's not a South Asian house. And they're like, Kirtana, you're the best person to start this. Why wouldn't you? You start, we'll rally behind you. And I'm like, okay, that works. And then come fast forward 22, I'm in Dallas Fort Worth Film Festival. I know Jitin Hingorani. I bring it up. I was like, hey, you do all these events everywhere. And everyone kind of, you're this person who knows the Indian community very well. Because I knew that as a Nepali, unfortunately, funds are not something that come at you, even no matter how much you try. And this is a massive funding space. And so I talked to him and he goes, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this. And then he's at Tribeca, meets with Ruhi and Monica, who are my other co-founders, who actually had been at South by that same year on a panel, and they'd been talking. So then he gives me a call from Tribeca saying, hey, I met these girls. They kind of want to be on board too. So it was like the universe was kind of conspiring about a South Asian house, just that it was trying to figure out which 4 puzzle pieces would be brought together. And then rest is history. We had our first South Asian house. I'm already gearing up for the second one. Got some incredible talent and partners planned out already. So I'm thrilled. I'm really, really stoked. A lot of work, so lots of volunteering. And last year, we didn't have a lot of Nepali representation.
Right.
It wasn't as equal, but this time I really want to bring in, I can't be the only one representing. I kind of want to sit in the back seat and sip on tequila instead. But
seriously that. But tell us more. How do we get more Nepali representation South by Southwest now?
I think volunteering is a great space, especially for young ones, right? And if you want to be in a creative space, or not even creative, if you want to open your network, I think, what you guys are doing is so important because it's expanding your network. If you're not, for creative specifically, well, I guess at this point, even tech, if you're not working on on your project, then it is important to go and find networks to go and talk to, collaborate with, and just kind of educate yourself. South by Southwest is incredible. South Asian House is free, so anyone can come in. We just require RSVPs. That's about it. But we had 7,000 people come in and out. And even then, what I was noticing is that we were missing a lot of the younger generation because we and I guess this is just, being a little older speaking, because as someone who is young, I thought the world is going to be my oyster and I can do whatever I want with it. But I had to work a little harder when I was older to expand on my network. But then there were other folks that were similar to me who actually ended up similar of age who would network a lot. So they were able to kind of create those pathways because that's the way they were brought up. I think that is going to be very important for parents to encourage their children to, if you want to go in the STEM route, fine. If you're going to push your kids to go in the STEM route, but don't crush their dreams. So let them go volunteer, let them go communicate, connect,
explore. Right?
Yeah, let them explore, that's what my parents did. I guess that's why I was able to follow my dreams. So I think that is one. Partnerships, sponsorships.
Exactly.
If you really want to speak at a panel, being that person saying, hey, I think what I have to say is important. So really going and selling yourself too, because I think as Nepalis, we're very, very bad at doing that. That's not ingrained in us. It's really not taught. But I think, and then of course, bringing in our culture, like we want to bring a lucky dancer. We want to bring in more things that are more Nepali itself. And I just don't want it to be about the mountains. I mean, I love the mountains, but that's not just
there's right.
Yes.
Right. Especially in 2023, I think we have more to offer, and I think it's really exciting. What I hope, for our community is people see opportunities like this, right? They don't have to go create opportunities from scratch, but we're all trying to do little bits of pieces here and there, and all they have to do is be a part of it, right? And I hope the community actually joins, not just one or two people that are in massive numbers. I hope they join. So
yeah, it's really, and that I really hope so too, because I'm not gonna lie, it becomes really I wouldn't say it becomes really lonely, because sometimes it's also very empowering to be this loud. And I have a very theatrical, because that was my, I was trained in theater since I was a kid, so I have a very loud theater voice. But it's kind of sad when everyone's talking about, this part of India and that part of India, or this part of Pakistan, or this part of Bangladesh, and they're really coming together, and there's this whole communication. And here I am, this Kathmandu Basi, we're just talking about Kathmandu alone, or just being the Nepali person and just talking about Nepal. But then again, it's like, where are my people? Why aren't they showing up? I think that's the important part, is why aren't you showing up when there's an event that is putting you on the global scale? Yeah,
exactly. No, I so agree. And I think now we're seeing that my hope again is people start supporting, not just publicly like like you have to show by action, right? By sponsoring and showing up and all of it. So we're hoping to make things happen fast.
तर त्यो मेरोमा पनि कमी छ, I'm not gonna lie, that I haven't really gone out of my way to really infiltrate the community and say, I need your help, please help me. Because in the past, it's been different. And like, God, you get these different excuses that, no, God, we can't compare ourselves to that. We can't compare ourselves to that. But sponsorship goes a long way. You'd be surprised that, you don't really need thousands and thousands of dollars. Just be showing up for a couple of events. That's a sponsorship alone, because you're helping me pay my bar tab.
Right.
Those are important things for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we'll our community will get to see more updates on this. That I hope we can get more sponsors, we can get people to volunteer, and we can get people to be involved. Definitely think. And
I need the help to be influenced by Nepal too. Like I need ideas, right? Because there's one head. I can't have all the ideas in one head.
Actually, no. I think that it's going to be, the exciting thing that I see from the community is that, right? It's not the community we experienced 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's where there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of ideas, and people are, want to do something, right? So I'm hoping everything, all that works out, and we can do something incredible together.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. Next question, say, you have your own production house, right? Banskota Productions. Tell us about that. Starting from why you chose that name, and tell us about some of the things you've done.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because it just kind of came to my mind. One of my friends yesterday, or a couple of days ago, was Googling my name. And I'm the only name that shows up no matter what. So I'm lucky that way, that I'm the only Kirtana Banskota in this entire world. So it helps because he Googled his name, and there's like literally millions of people that show up with the same name. And he's an actor. So he goes, come on, it doesn't work. But, rewind, I guess, the first film in Nepal being sanctioned by my grandfather, Narayan Prasad Banskota, who was the minister at the time in the Mohinder Sashin. So I never kind of connected that. And then, I've just been this very proud little Banskota girl growing up. I didn't really get much time in Kathmandu, unlike my cousins and my siblings. I went to boarding school in India. But this, I've always known that my identity is, I'm very proud to have that last name.
Right.
And also the fact that, when I go back in Kathmandu, it's easier to just kind of, I'm not going to lie, it's easier with the last name too. And it's like, so that pride kind of stuck with me, and I refuse to change my last name. And this is the name I was born with. This is the name I'm going to die with. And when you're a creative, your creation becomes your brand. Your what you do, and you're leaving footprints in every single thing you do. You're leaving your ideas somewhere or the other. There's a mark that you leave. So, of course, Kirtana Banskota, the name that I work in other productions, that cannot leave a mark. But then when I sit down and think, what's my legacy going to be, is the fact that I'm creating, and I love to create, and I'm the first daughter to do this in my family too. So why not leave a legacy and a mark with the same name that I'm so proud of?
On a global level, right?
Yeah, on a global level. Because I do have an office in Kathmandu as well. I haven't worked in Nepal yet. I'm hoping that next year is going to be my first project in Nepal. But I really wanted to put a stamp, really wanted to grow. And Austin has been so kind to me. So it's also funny, in Nepali, of course, we say Banskota, and then with the na, because of the Chandra-bindu, here it's Banskota. So every time someone asks me, how do you pronounce your last name? Kirtana, spelling or pronunciation are different. Spelling, and that's I said it's pronounced exactly like the same way my name is written. And then, so that's been the most incredible way of branding. Actually, it's been weird because Nepalis don't say Banskota, they say Banskota. So now I have to figure out a way to mesh the branding throughout Nepal and here. That's really the history of, why. And it's really an ode and homage to my grandfather and the legacy he's left behind, and my family, and a thank you to my parents who never questioned the fact that I wanted to go to film school and get a bachelor's in film, and just encouraged me throughout. So it's really hats off to them. And the logo is because my hair usually is always on the side, so that's where the logo comes. That's leaving my mark.
That's beautiful. So you always wanted to be in the film industry, right?
Yes. Ever since I can remember, I remember, when I was in India and boarding school, I went when I was 12 years old, Nainitalma, All Saints. So I would sign letters. We used to get these tiny little inlets that you used to send to your family. And my poo-poo right now, she still teases me and goes, remember you used to sign the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe? Every time, and I was always in theaters every single time, the end of the year and scrapbooks where all your friends, and there's those tears. You're only going for 3 months. Now when I think of it, there's I don't know why we were crying all the time. But those scrapbooks always said, can't wait to see you win your Oscar. And it kind of was where I had this vision and dream as a kid, and everyone in my family and my friends just encouraged it. And it just it wasn't just it's not just been my manifestation. It's been everyone else's manifestation for me. So that belief kind of stuck with me forever. So it's where I go with it.
It's amazing. This, support of family and almost like a village, right? So where you are. From those dreams in Nepal to coming to the US, was it very seamless? Did you have any hurdles in terms of, moving towards your dream?
Yes. So yes and no, both, right? So the school was a breeze, because I think once you go to boarding school in India or you've studied in Nepal, university here is easy. It's nothing gets difficult here. My only thing is because I went to a private school, Temple University, so it was a little different where there was no Nepali community. I was born here, so I wasn't an immigrant. I didn't qualify to be an international student. So I think those were my moments where I was like, "But wait, what do you say?" So just kind of coping up with those American nuances, but that was like, I think, the biggest hurdle that I had to face. On paper, in front of me, I always say, I don't know what kind of stars I was born under, but whatever it is, I think I might be the luckiest person alive because I've never faced direct criticism or issues with the way I look or the any kind of racism at all. Unlike my brother who has, or a lot of my friends who have. So I did none of those kind of hurdles. Now, in terms of film school, once you graduate, that's when the hurdle begins. Because you're a PA, which is a production assistant, and you're starting from scratch, but you don't know where you're going to go because you're in New York and everyone is in that place. And then you start realizing, okay, what do I do with this? Like, I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, a wildlife documentary filmmaker, filming snow leopards. I go, never mind. I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to be in the mountains watching snow leopards trying to do things forever. So then you started kind of figuring your path out. And then you realize filmmaking is starting a business, which means every short film is a new business, which means you need to ask for money. And what Nepali culture or the way I was raised is, paisa ko bare mein we do not talk. We don't find it comfortable to say, hey, Preeti, I need $10,000 to make this short film about my culture. And so I decided to join tech sales after that to just understand and be comfortable asking for just funds without blinking an eye or, without feeling uncomfortable, without making someone else feel uncomfortable. Because that's also another thing that you can ask for funds, but you can't keep going to the same coffers over and over again. Then how do you expand your networks? I think that's where, I wouldn't say it was a hurdle, but that's where the journey starts coming together. Then I had to kind of take a back seat from film. That's why I moved to Austin. But then even here, I was doing a lot of slasher films, really bad, D-grade films that are not even listed on my IMDb because no one should see those films. But they taught me what not to do, how not to behave, what not to communicate, how to finish your project you've started, how to treat every human being like a human being and not, they're not laborers. They're creatives. They're really working hard to make something because they believe in your dream. So everyone's gearing together to just believe in your dream. That's it. Like it's a producer, director, writer's dream. So I think with all of that said, that's kind of been the pathway. And now that I've created the pathway, I want everyone to follow in it so they don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. So here I am beckoning Nepali women and girls and young boys to hop on this train because, it's time we actually start making films that Netflix doesn't even blink an eye to say, let's take on, or any other platforms or any other, industry. So here I am.
And for help. That's incredible that, you've paved that path. And I think now Abaku generation will have much easier time just, following that. Then a quick question on what you talked about, right? From your experience, right? Anybody that goes into creative field and so on there, just from your experience, there seems to be a need for even understanding the business side of things, okay? Whatever people study.
Oh.
Do you think there should be a little bit more focus on that as well so that people don't have a better learning curve in terms of not just learning the craft, but monetizing it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I honestly regret not listening to my dad in terms of going to business school simultaneously while going to film school, because it does, any kind of creative art, be it, directing, producing, people only think that, producing is, you need to talk about, funds or monetary gain. But so do writers. The whole strike right now is happening because of the fact that writers like to write, and but if you just understood numbers, actors, I was just talking to one of my friends saying, you can't let people take advantage of you as an actor. And that's, again, the strike is happening for actors as well. Even production assistants, if you're going to go into something, know your worth, know your background. If you've gone to film school, be able to say, hey, I really want to work on lighting because that's what I want to do forever or in the near future. This is how much I can bring. So know your numbers, learn to negotiate. I think those are things that are so important to be taught: negotiation, business, but even if it's just basic accounting. Oh God, accounting is so.
Yes.
I had freaking out moments at the beginning with like my accountants and just like freaking out and calling and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand any of this. But I think also the main thing is curiosity. Like, I think overall, if you're curious about just logic and numbers, along with the creative side, it helps. Or find a partner who you can trust wholeheartedly to do that. Because that also is very important. Read everything. Read every single thing, because contracts are intense.
Are insane, right? And I think you're not being comfortable with what you're told, right? I think, reading and what you're suggesting is all of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can't just...
Yeah, I mean, Kostutanya, I think this is, I think, an overall, I don't know what this is, where if we see, say, for example, if paperwork comes in from a doctor's office, you'd be surprised how many of us will just like sign it just because we want to get done with it instead of really reading the fine prints. I used to be very guilty of doing the same. And then once I got into the producing aspect, I was like, wait, hold on. What does this mean? And now I redline everything and I ask questions. Asking questions again, why do I need to sign this? Why is this important? Is also very, I think that also brings in a lot of strength to who you are. I started feeling more comfortable when I started asking more questions instead of just going with the flow. And I think we've been trained culturally where asking questions is not as encouraged. And when I say culture, I just don't mean South Asian culture. I mean, like, regardless, as women, we've been told not to ask questions. That here we are breaking boundaries, and just, why is my favorite word.
No, I think that's such a good thing that we've learned, and I hope our community learns as well, right? Just asking questions, not just being okay with anything, right? The contracts with Kuratse, I think it's not just in terms of it's like even for jobs and stuff, right? It could be anything where if you don't understand anything, you should ask questions. I think that should be that our community follows quite a bit. While talking about encouraging young people to follow in your path, apart from going to film school and just specializing and so on, what are some traits that you see are important? If people want to get into this field, and it's a big range we're talking about, right, in terms of different roles. What are some sort of things that you would suggest to people that are trying to get in?
So I never had a mentor. I suggest finding a mentor. I think that is very important. Know someone who has either been in the industry, and doesn't have to be your culturally itself. There's so many organizations now. I mean, I serve on the board of Women in Film and Television in Austin, and it's an international organization. It's, with 70 plus chapters across the globe. Every city has a chapter, more or less, in the US. And their emerging talent is they've got allies, their emerging artist membership costs are very low, but finding those mentorship spaces, going and volunteering. For practice, I would say, social media is great because you do get followers and stuff. But again, know exactly what you want to do, because, say, for example, if someone sent me a TikTok audition right now, I probably would not look at it. Unless it's, asked for. I get random emails from random unsolicited actors with extreme weird videos, and I'm like, I'm not looking for anything, but I also find it, it's sometimes these pictures, it's just, I don't know how to say this, but you need to stop and really think, or just do some research. If you're an actor, I would say, learn a monologue well, get your headshots. If you don't have the cost, or if you don't have the, the monetization to get a professional headshot, that's fine. Do it from your cell phone. Our cell phones are incredible nowadays. There are some incredible YouTube videos to just teach you how to angle yourself. Do not send filtered pictures. No one wants them. No one cares about them. But then if you're going into like producing and directing, and be okay starting from the bottom. That's something that I really encourage. And I think there's this like fact about ego, even till date now, the minute I find out, there's this big Hollywood production happening that's like millions of dollars, I find some way or the other, even if it's PAing, I will go on set just to see what the new gadgets are, what they're doing. How do I just hover around these big directors to see how they work, and then come back saying, oh, I got this. But then again, just like really educating yourself and putting yourself out there, because it's very important to be humble in this space. Partnerships, reaching out, being kind. Our industry is a very unkind, very fast moving industry. It's very based on a lot of look and feel, and it's very plastic in many ways. So know what's under the plastic. Like really try to peel the layers, and then try to be authentic. Because there have been moments where I was like, you know what, whatever, maybe I should not do what I do. I mean, it's not like I've done much, but even, it's like trying to be as authentic as I can for myself and to myself has been, it is a journey, and it's a battle. It's a nonstop battle saying, well, if that person did that, what if I just tweaked my way a little bit? And if I tweak my way a little bit, how far is the tweaking going to be, and how much am I going to lose myself? So having like that support system, like to ground you, to remind you that you're a human being, to call you out, to not put you on a pedestal, because everyone else will. And also remember, this industry is not glamorous in any shape or form, from writing to working in the dead of the heat, to being on the red carpet and you've got body tape all over you wearing that dress, and you're sweating from head to toe, and the lights are on you, and then you're constantly worried that you might have lipstick on your teeth, or you might have your pores might look really big. I mean, those are things that like, or you might, because I'm very animated when I speak, so usually I'm caught in like really weird angles. So I'm always all of a sudden like, now I'm like, okay, just smile, don't get animated. But then once I start speaking, I go, oh, you know what? Never mind. At this point, no one cares. This is who I am. I'm just going to own it. But
right. But I love that you're talking about the non-glamour side of things as well, right? Because
there's nothing glamorous. There's nothing. The only glamorous bit is when you sit on the couch and you turn it on and you see what you've done on TV. You're like, this is pretty cool. Like, that's it. That's the only glamorous bit. Nothing glamorous.
We have so much. I feel like, we should do an unedited version of, talking about videos and pictures you get and all of that. But tell us about the really cool things you've done that you're really proud about on a personal as well as professional level.
So let me go personal. Last year, I was able to climb up to 18,500 feet Nepal in Kalapathar. So we went, my family, me and my cousins, we went to a base camp. I was terrified because, I hadn't really practiced. I mean, I live in Texas, which is the highest elevation in Texas is 748 feet, which is sad. But, that's where I was. And I think that moment, it was one of those days where everyone's like, no one wants to climb that. That my guide and I don't know why I did this as we were climbing. I was like acting as if I could do this. And every single time I'm like, I need to sit there and just breathe so he doesn't think I'm dying by the minute. But you start climbing and then you start realizing, the stars are right in your face and everything around you is just so quiet. It's unpolluted in light or sound or anything else, and no one else was walking in front or behind us at that time. And we walked to the top and there was a team waiting, but they were pinned, like it was so quiet and still because they were just meditating. And as the sun rises and you see all these different mountains light up, and then finally you see Everest light up. I mean, she's not the prettiest mountain in the world, but God, when she lit up, you just go, this is it. This is a moment I'd be okay if I died today. It's that moment of, I don't know, Nepali pride or just being in a mountain, feeling nothing, like feeling that you're so insignificant in this vast world. And all you can do is do your bit. And then a moment of sadness kind of creeps in because you're like, oh my God, I say I'm insignificant, but what I've done has created this mountain in many ways to be so polluted. And people like me have created these places where glaciers are melting and there's whole climate change catastrophe happening in our part of the world because of human beings like me. And then you start realizing you're powerful to be that change too. So I think it was that moment that just like gets you. So I think personal level meant that, but as we were going, and this has been going on for a long time in my mind where I wanted to really work on an animated series. And my nephew was with me, मेरो पुपुको छोरीको छोरा. So we were walking and I started narrating the story and he goes, Kirtana, are you going to write it? And I was like, yep. So I come home and I started writing the script for it, and then I go and pitch it. And then I pitch it to the Women in Film and Television International Competition and win the Development Award. So right now I'm working on a script about a Nepali girl in the mountains trying to it's a Nepali girl with her best friend who's a yak, go in search of her father who has been kind of, buried in an avalanche. But meanwhile, as she's doing that, she faces all these demons and everything. And at the end of the day, it's, it's all about climate change and how it like engulfs it. So that kind of led to that. That's a very big project. So it's just like,
I love that. I can't wait to, see it.
Me too. But yeah, that's been like the longest project right now that I've been working on. And it's not even like, it hasn't even begun because I'm still writing. So that in terms of Nepali, that's one. The other Nepali feature I'm writing on is about and that's also in pitch mode right now. It's about a older widow who comes to live with her family here in the U.S. After her husband dies. And it's just this beautiful family dynamic. And, she's trying to figure out the U.S. and she doesn't speak English. She kind of has like she breaks her hip and has to be put through physical therapy. But the daughter-in-law is, a top CEO, doesn't have time. The son says he cannot really do it. So I kind of shifted gears a little bit because usually no matter what, our women are incredible. Like they're able to juggle a million things. It's sometimes when that same responsibility comes to a man, not necessarily are they able to do it. So they kind of put her in a physical therapy home, and she's now navigating through life. And she develops these friendships despite speaking different languages. Has an interpreter that comes and helps her out, and finally is able to figure some things out. So that I think should be complete next year. Putting a call out to Nepali women who are actresses in the US. If you're here and you're interested, I really would like you to audition. I want women that are over the age of 65 to audition, nothing younger than that. Because I think that's also another place where we lack in telling stories about our older people. So Nepalima त्यो दुईटा भयो. And then, of course, I co-founded the Nepal America Film Society with the International Film Festival in Maryland, which has been running for 6 years successfully. So it's been incredible to connect with Nepali filmmakers there too. But outside of the Nepali thing, besides South Asian House, I'm really excited about my feature coming out, which is called Where the Stars Are. It's written by Andy Yang. It's a Banskota Productions home production, built in Austin, made by Austin, for Austinites. 95% of my cast is Asian American Pacific Islander. 90% of my crew are AAPI and peers, like person of color. Has 3 original songs. The trailer releases on September 5th. The poster is already out there. It's a very indie film, really low budget, but it's got this like beautiful story about migration, in the sense where your parents came here with a dream and they expect you to follow STEM, or they expect you to follow certain aspects and goals in life because that's what they think is the American dream of towards happiness. But what their dream might not be your dream, and it clashes between the passion versus the dream. So these two actors who want to be a filmmaker and a musician are really wanting to do that, but the parents keep wanting them to kind of go into engineering / medical school. So very similar to a lot of stories. So that worked out pretty well. Another film that I directed called Premonition is coming out this end of summer. Stars Bill Duke. It's a psych thriller that's based in Dallas. And then I have a couple of other shorts. I work in every genre. So, I've got an LGBTQ short coming out. I have another relationship between an Italian woman and a Hispanic woman. They're neighbors, and there's just conversational like short coming out as well. I'm working on another Nepali short. I'm working on a bunch of other films. So there's quite a bit that a future month, and these are 4 or 5 things that I'm working on really. And then I just announced a pilot series called House of Wu, which is going to be a beast.
No, this is an incredible. Like I said, I'm so proud of you, and I think our community is just going to love it. On our end, we'll do everything to amplify it. I would love for our community members to go see these features when they come out together, and really, really show support, not by just saying that they support, but actually bringing numbers, watching it, sending feedback and everything else. So we're super, super excited. I think it's incredible. Kirtana, one thing sort of I want to talk about is, there's all these genres you're working with, all these different stories and so on. How do you feel your identity as a woman, as a Nepali, as an immigrant, all of those, right? How have they evolved, through your journey in filmmaking and all of it? And what sort of is there like a chicken and egg sort of thing where, your identity shapes what you make, or it's the other way around in a way where, some of the things that you create are shaping your identity?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think it's a chicken and egg situation because, like I said, I think to me, storytelling is so unique because I've met actors that are here who've been in the different industries in different parts of the globe. But when they come here, they're like, well, no one's really writing a story for me. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you know how to create. I mean, you might have an idea of what you want to do. Just if you don't know how to write, just record your voice and send it to a writer. Let them do the work. So in terms of what's shaping what has become more like, I think I have a very clear vision of what kind of projects I want to work with. I want to work with projects that are very diverse in the sense they have to have, I can work with anyone and everyone from across the globe, but the layers have to have some kind of social impact message, or there has to be some kind of, conversation, be it mental health, be it LGBTQ, be it women's rights, be it immigration, like whatever. These are like strong points that I really do believe in that need voices. Like I said, I'm born of privilege. I've been given all the privilege. I've been given an extremely loud voice. So if I'm not being an echo chamber for someone else who has a softer voice, then what am I doing? Am I going to really thrive? And I think I thrive in chaos. I like I like negative feedback. It sounds really weird, but I like people to tell me that this is bad. Because that's the only way I can grow. I know if someone keeps telling me, "Oh my God, you're good," then it doesn't really work. But I love when people are able to give me feedback, are able to just look at something and say, "I don't know how I feel about this," and I like to know how you feel, because my thought and idea of something might not be your thought and idea of something. In terms of, the projects that I create, I know for a fact that I can never do justice to a story that from a girl from Bhaktapur, because I've never lived their life. Now, if they have written it and there's a certain way to be directed, then yes, I can come in. But I can't sit down and write that, because that authentic juice that needs to be in a script, and you'll see it in a lot of films, actually. Like when you see it, like, each hat, because that authentic love is missing. So
Right.
I know, yeah. So I'll stay away from those projects. I know what I don't like, for sure.
Okay.
Like what I will not do. Yeah. I was like, I know what I will not do. I know there are certain people I will not work with. I be it cast or crew, if it's the core group, I do my homework well. I'm the kid who used to hate doing homework. Now I love doing homework. I like to know every single person. I like to have this very connective space on set. I think it's very, very important. Not that even that reflects on television, it's just, or on screen. So I think that's how I work. Sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't, which is okay, because everything's
fine. Right.
Yeah. I don't believe in burning bridges in this industry. There's a lot of burning bridges. I don't see that. I was born to build a bridge. I was born in Missouri of Nepali parents who moved back to Nepal and went to India. So I'm not building that. I'm going to be burning a lot of bridges here. So I think with that mindset and that, that behind my back, it's been easier to work than this is exactly what I want to do, because I had my fingers in every cookie jar.
Which is nice, right? I think that's something that, again, our community can learn, that there are multiple ways to go around it, and just being open-minded about all of it, right? And being mature about it. Sometimes I think it's age as well, where, it's so easy to say, okay, I'm dead against this and so on. And I think what maturity is figuring out that, there's other ways to go around and so on, right?
Yeah. I think in this, mainly for the creative side, right? We become pioneers in many ways. Like before pandemics happened, there's already a film about, like 17 different films about pandemics. Before AI came into being, there's a whole show about AI. So, if you're going to be that person, then you should be open to feedback. I think that's also another aspect. Like, I think being open to feedback, and I think you've heard me say this in many before, it's like being an active listener, really understanding what the other person is coming from and where they're coming from. Not going in with, we all have our personal prejudices. I'm born a unicorn where I love everything and everyone, but that doesn't mean I have to disrespect someone else's boundaries and someone else's thought process. Being patient enough, and that definitely comes with age and learning, where you have to be very, very patient in this industry, and also learn how to say, no, I'm not going to take that from you. I've had moments where I've seen younger women being yelled at, and I've stepped in and say, no, that's not going to work. Or I've been yelled at, and I of course, I was like, and I walked away.
So nothing. No. I mean, yeah, there are times when you
literally have to say that, because you can't let anyone take advantage of you. And everyone tries to take advantage of you here. And you really, like you said, right? You're a business of your own. It's not just you owning the business, but you as a person, you're your brand, you're your business. And there might be whoever is listening, and they might kind of smile, because there are moments where I've been invited in our own Nepali community and they spell my name wrong, incorrectly. And I send it back to them and say, my name is not Kritina, it's Kirtana. Very clearly, there's a A after a T. So please, Kirtan bada ako Kirtana, testo garo chhaina. And I say those are very simple things too. Like being diligent, pay attention to details. That's also another thing. Pay attention to details. Else some very, very big projects and shows have had major faux buzz because of that. So there's a lot of layers, but that's just being a human being. These are things you teach your kids growing up. I mean, that's what I was taught. So it's, yeah.
No, I know there's definitely so much that we can teach the community. And I think, we need a whole other episode just to talk about those kind of things, what we wish our community is and is not. And, there's obviously, I think it's on a positive trend, right? In terms of how we're doing as a community and so on. Just to wrap this conversation up, Kirtana, what do you think is something, for our diaspora, let's sort of leave Nepal ekachin ko lagi. But when we think about this Nepali diaspora and moving forward, how can we create that brand for the diaspora in general, and how can we really uplift each other?
So, I mean, of course, networks like yours are, I think, the pioneers of doing this, right? Because I think what's happened is, in the past, and this is something I've noticed, and I have been guilty of this myself, where you join a local community and then you realize that there's this gap between age and, I guess, the way people came in, the diaspora entered the country. Now, if you're a professional, you're kind of like, all right, I'm a group, so let's just have jam night, let's just hang out. And of course, the one thing in common for every Nepali is we all have momo parties. I think momo party, no matter what, hands down, brings every Nepali together. But so I think that's what you guys need to do, set a momo party, for a global momo party for all of us to show up. But other than that, I think instead of stepping away from the Nepali diaspora, I think it's also important for step into the Nepali diaspora, where what I'm trying to say is, if you're a professional, saying, hey, this is what I do. What can I do to help? Because, and honestly, I think what also a lot of people did do in the early 2000s, mid 2000s was get burnt out because of the monetary ask. So even if it's just networking and saying, how do I mentor you? I think a mentorship program is incredible. How do I teach you, and how do I learn from you? I learn more from, these younger, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids nowadays than I do from my elders, because they're so inept to remember. Everything right now is, tech, and they've got it. They were born with a cell phone in their hand. So I think just those moments of, instead of stepping away, but trying to step in, and because I've been guilty, that's what I'm trying to do is reach back out. Apologize for the lack of interest on my part, or the lack of stepping in, or just, that's also on me, because I can blame everyone for doing whatever, but for not showing up. But what have I done for them to show up for me? So just knowing that too has been very humbling, and finding those people that you connect with who are already in the diaspora and are part of it in a larger scale, and being like, hey, can you help me out here? So building those friendships, because at the end of the day, we all are Nepali-ish in our own ways. Right. We have Momo in common, so might as well.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Lumbo doesn't have a Momo.
I think there's you wouldn't believe it. We've created some stickers for the diaspora. It has not just Momo parties, but mentorship parties or something like that. We were mentors. We point that for the diaspora. That you're so right. I think understanding, our ourselves and our diaspora, and figuring out ways to engage. Right. I think What I love is now, I think, if we let go of our baggage, individual as well as collective, the timing is right here. It is like for us, all of us to step in. And I think all of us, I feel like people are generally a little more accepting or something like that. Something's happening with our diaspora. I think there is this vibe that I feel. So I think, it's a good time to step in. But on that note, Kirtana, this was so nice. I'm so glad, I feel like you and I are already friends. We can talk about other things. But what I love is I get to showcase you to people in our community that haven't heard about it. I mean, there's a lot of them that already know you, that I hope that this actually brings, showcases you, right? The amazing work you do. And I think also showcases the need for our diaspora to come in and contribute. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Preeti. I am so grateful that I met you on that day, and this has evolved. And I've been following you. I've been listening to your podcast, and it's every single time I see a post from you on LinkedIn, I'm just like, what is she up to now? So I thought I had a million things going on, but knowing you, I'm like, okay, I still got 6 more hours on my day that I can fill in. So, but thank you for creating such a space for all of us to come together, and for all of us to be, for all of us to network and engage and grow. Because at the end of the day, yes, we're here in the US, but there's this incredible, halo that we bring with us. And all we can do is just put it together so we can just shine together. So I love that. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your friendship.
Thank you. And, for our audience, you'll get to hopefully see some updates from the two of us very soon. But until then, listen to our episode and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.